أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum dear viewers. Welcome to JemeilTv. Today we will study in a bit detailed commentary of Surah Al-Asr number 103 in the compilation of Holy Quran. As this very short surah outlines complete system for human life based on the Islamic viewpoint. It defines in the clearest and most concise form the basic concept of faith in the context of its comprehensive reality. In a few words, the whole Islamic constitution is covered, and in fact, the Muslim community is described in its essential qualities and message in one verse only, the last verse. Such is the clear and most expressive style of which only Allah is capable. The great fact which this surah affirms is simply that throughout the history of mankind there has been one worthwhile and trustworthy path, which is specifically the one the surah describes. All other ways lead only to loss and ruin. As it says in outline, this way means first the adoption of faith, followed by good deeds, and exhortation to follow the truth and to persevere in the face of adversity. Faith and its significance. What does the adoption of faith then mean? We shall not give here its juristic definition. Instead, we shall describe its nature and importance in human life. Faith is the characteristic by which man, a small creature with a life of short duration in a limited world, attains closeness to the absolute and everlasting originator of the universe and all that exists in it. He thus establishes a link with the whole universe which springs from that one origin, with the laws governing it and the powers and potentialities it provides. As a result, he breaks away from it the narrow boundaries of his trivial self to the broadness of the universe. From his inadequate power to the great unknown universal energy, and from the limits of his short life to the eternity that Allah alone comprehends. This bond with Allah grants man assured power, limitless scope, and freedom. It endows him with great enjoyment of this beautiful life and enriches his life with a mutual friendship with other creatures. Thus, life becomes a pleasant journey for man everywhere and at all times. From this, an everlasting happiness and intimate understanding of life and creation are derived. This is the invaluable gain to lack, which is an immeasurable loss. The qualities of faith are also precisely those of sublime and dignified humanity, such as the worship of one Allah, which elevates man above servitude to others and establishes within him the truth of all mankind's equality, so that he neither yields nor bows down his head to anyone other than Allah, the One, the Absolute. The result is that man enjoys true liberty which radiates from within his conscience following his realization that there is only one power and one Lord in this world. This liberation is spontaneously developed from such an awareness, for it is the only logical sequence. Worldliness is the second quality of dignified humanity. This quality determines for man the source from which he derives his concepts, values, criteria, considerations, doctrines, laws, and whatever brings him into relation with Allah, the world at large, and with his fellow human beings. Thus, equity and justice replace personal desires and self interest. This strengthens the believer's realization of the value of his way of life and keeps him above all Jahiliya concepts, interests, and mundane values. This is so even when a believer finds himself alone, with no one else of his kind, for he counters all these features with values he derives directly from God. As such, they are the highest in value, most sound, and most deserving of devotion and esteem. A third quality of faith and dignified humanity is the clarity of the relationship between the Creator and His creatures. Thus, man who is creature, restricted by his own world, is connected with the everlasting truth without any mediator. It supplies his heart and soul with light and contentment, and it gives him confidence and purpose. It eliminates from his mind perplexity, fear, and anxiety, as well as any inclination towards arrogance and tyranny over others. Following the path ordained by Allah with steadfastness and clarity of vision is the next quality of the community of believers. This must be maintained so that godness does not come about casually, incidentally, or without deliberation, but rather springs from definite motives and heads towards certain aims. People united for Allah's cause collaborate. Thus, with a single defined purpose and a single distinguished banner, the Muslim community is raised. This is true for all generations that are similarly welded together. Another quality is belief in the dignity of man in God's sight. This heightens man's regard for himself and restrains him from aspiring to a position higher than that which the Creator has defined for him. For man to feel that he is dignified in God's sight is the loftiest concept he may attain of himself. Any ideology or philosophy that bases this valuation and ascribes a dishonorable origin to man, separating him from the supreme society of Allah, is nothing but a position of ignominy and degradation, even though it may not say so openly. Hence, the effects of Darwinism, Freudianism, and Marxism are among the most horrid disasters human nature has encountered. For they teach mankind that all abasement and downright animalism are natural phenomena with which we should be familiar and of which we need not to be ashamed. Purity of motivation is yet another quality of the dignified humanity established by faith. This directly follows the realization of man's dignity in Allah's sight, his supervision over human conscience, and his knowledge of what man harbors in his innermost soul. A normal human being whom the theories of Freud, Karl Marx, and their type have not deformed feels ashamed should another person come to know what unhealthy feelings he may incidentally experience. The believer feels the awesome presence of Allah in his innermost consciousness, and his awareness makes him tremble. He therefore resorts to self purification and spiritual cleansing. A refined moral sense is the natural fruit of faith in Allah, who is just, kind, compassionate, generous, and forbearing, and who abhors evil, loves goodness, knows every furtive look and every secret thought. From this follows the believer's responsibility, which is the direct result of the free will and the fact that Allah is aware of all that he does and feels. It stimulates within him healthy awareness, sensitivity, serenity, and foresight. He is a communal rather than an individual responsibility. What is more is that it is a responsibility towards all humanity, pure and simple. A believer feels all this is in every action. He achieves a higher degree of self respect and calculates results before taking any step. He is of value in the world and the whole realm of existence and has a role in its smooth running. The final quality is man's elevation above greed for worldly gains, preferring instead Allah's richer, everlasting reward for which all people should strive, as the Quran directs them to do. Such striving for all that is good result in spiritual elevation, purification, and cleansing. Of immense help in this regard is the fact that a believer has a broad scope of action between his life and the next and between the heaven and the earth. Man's elevation lessens his anxiety about the result and fruits of his action. He does what is good only because it is good and because God requires it. It is never his concern whether it leads to further goodness in his own short life. God for whom he performs the good neither dies, forgets, nor ignores anyone's deed. The reward is not to be received here, for this life is not the last. Thus, a believer acquires the power to continue to perform good deeds without waiting for immediate result. He is sustained in his determination to do good deeds by his unshakable belief in Allah. This is what guarantees that doing good becomes a carefully chosen way of life, not a casual incident or motiveless event. It is this belief that supplies believers with the power and fortitude to face evil, whether manifested in the despotism of a tyrant, the pressures of Jahiliyyah, or the fertility of their willpower to control their passions. All these represent pressures which arise primarily from a sense that this life is too short for us to achieve our aims and pleasures, and from our inability to comprehend the deeper results of doing good or to see the ultimate victory of right over evil. Faith provides a radical and perfect way of dealing with such feelings.